So hey everyone, Yukine here. In this video we're going to be going over just general starting strategy, what you should do starting out. Unfortunately I already bought the packages, but there's two packages available when you're first starting out, the Light Knight Selector and the Dark Knight Selector packages. They'll give you some crystals. That is the wrong place. I want to be looking at the Codex. For the Light Knights, or the White Knights, you want to get Ramuh. The reason being is she's an amazing healer. It does say she's a hybrid, but she's a healer. She is more of a healer than a lot of the actual healers. So her second skill heals all allies by 20% of their health, and reduces their debuff duration by 1 turn. That's pretty significant. It's very good for like cleansing stuns. Most stuns are a single turn, or just general debuffs. Ramuh's amazing for both PvP and PvE. For a lot of the harder admin dungeons, I pretty much have Ramuh in almost every team. Her third skill on a 7-turn cooldown, it revives 2 allies and restores 40% of their HP. That's pretty nice. She's one of the few characters that have 2 revives. If for whatever reason you do happen to get 5 extra Ramuhs after your first one, you can max skill her revive, and it'll actually revive 3 allies for 70% of their health. Her second skill, when maxed out, will revive or heal all allies by 40% and reduce debuff duration by 2 turns. So that'll effectively be a cleanse, kind of like Rue's second skill. And just the main amazing point of her is for this first passive, heals all allies by 10% of their health at the end of her turn. So she just always is providing a steady amount of healing to your team. Her 60 talent is pretty amazing as well. It revives her with 100% health when she dies. And I build her super tanky HP defense set. We'll be going over kind of builds in a different video, but Ramuh is definitely the best one that I would recommend from the White Knight Selector. Rebecca you get for free, so there's not really a need to get another one of her. Damien's okay. Marduk is not very good. His passives are not very good at all. The Dark Knight Selector set, there's 2 that I would highly recommend from here. Deimos is one of those. He's one of the 3 best healers in the game, along with Karen and Rue. His passive, he gets a 50% chance when he's using a skill to obtain Black Prayer. If there's 3 or more Black Prayers on him at the end of his turn, he'll consume all of them and restore all allies' health by 20% and decrease buff duration of 2 random enemies by 1 turn. This is pretty amazing. So generally you're going to be building Deimos with either a lot of multi-strike or a lot of counter-strike. I would probably recommend counter-strike more on him, just so you can get those procs up a little bit faster. Multi-strike doesn't work when you're using heals, so his second and his third skill aren't going to proc multi-strike, only his first one. So multi-strike's not bad, but counter-strike's a little bit better because it has a little bit higher chance to proc that. His first skill, like with most healers, it does 100% attack, which isn't going to be much with a healer. Their base attack's pretty low. But the main thing is restores 5% HP of an ally with the lowest health. Restores an additional 5%, so a total of 10% if they're the same element as Deimos. If you max skill that, that goes up to 10% for 40, or for 20% health on the same element. He also has an additional effect to remove 1 buff from the target, which is pretty good. His second skill is a attack buff, and also removes all debuff from the ally. The Dark Warrior makes them immune to abnormal statuses for 2 turns, so that could be pretty key. Maybe you're fighting an Advent or something and the boss is at a point where they're going to use their big skill that stuns you. You can use that to cleanse that off. It works on all sorts of effects. Looming Death is another one of those. And then we get to his third skill. Restores all allies' health by 35% and 100% chance to grant Veil and Phantasm to evade attacks for 1 turn. That applies to the entire team. It's pretty amazing. It gives your characters a 100% chance to evade. This is better than, say, a damage immunity shield that a lot of tanks have, because some bosses have piercing modifier on their big nukes, so that'll actually go through damage immunity, versus there's nothing that goes through evasion. So you'll get that guaranteed extra turn to do whatever you need to do. So Deimos, if you happen to have pulled him when starting out, then in the Dark Knight selector I would recommend getting Ashley. His leader skill is 30% multi-strike for Dark Allies, which is the highest multi-strike leader skill that you can get. And then Ashley is just like a damage dealing monster in PvE, especially against bosses when you can get his Ebony Wound stack up a lot. So Ebony Wound is a 20% stacking attack damage over time effect. He has a 70% chance to apply that to the target for 3 turns, which is refreshed whenever he applies a new stack. And then when he attacks someone or an enemy that already has Ebony Wound, he has another 70% chance to apply that to another random enemy. That stacks up to 10 times, so that'll end up being 200% attack at 10 stacks. So when the enemy, or when the boss or whoever it is takes their turn, at the start of their turn, they're going to take 20% damage of Ashley's attack per stack. So that's pretty amazing. His second passive is also amazing. He inflicts damage equal to 50% of his attack that ignores defense when attacking a target with Ebony Wound. So not only does he have a good chance to apply Ebony Wound, his leader skill gives him multi-strike so he can get more attacks to apply more Ebony Wounds out. And then he just gets additional damage whenever attacking anyone that has Ebony Wound. His first skill, 100% attack, inflicted to a single target, and inflicts 30% additional damage if the target's HP is 50% or higher. That's pretty amazing. Most Advent bosses, a good like 70% of the fight, you're going to be fighting the boss with 50% or higher. HC Jobo, I don't have any notifications. I appreciate the host and the raid. Thank you very much. I'm right now going over or recording a guide for new players, which is why I didn't respond. I haven't set up notifications in my stream yet. I really need to. But yeah, continuing on to his second skill, he gives himself a 30% crit chance and crit damage buff, right? And then he also applies 5 stacks of Ebony Wounds. So that's 100% attack to all enemies when they take their turn. And then his third skill inflicts damage to 300% of his attack to 1 target, 70% chance to decrease their buff duration by 1 turn, and then 55% chance to stun for 2 turns. The stun is pretty significant, but it's not going to be effective against Advent bosses. It is good against like certain mini bosses that are able to be crowd controlled. and potentially in PvP. Though again, he's not one that I would really recommend in PvP too much if you have some of the better units. But those are kind of the 3 characters that I would highly recommend from the Dark and Light Knight selector packs. For other kind of purchases that are highly valuable, I would highly recommend the monthly crystal package. That'll net you 800 crystals for about $7. If you compare that to just straight up buying crystals, that's 940 crystals for $79 or $80. So that's going to be about like $60, $70 worth of crystals over a month for just $7. Also, I don't have it up here because I already bought all of them, but all of the beginner selector or beginner selection packs are worthwhile to pull from. And then just generally progression wise, I would recommend clearing adventure mode from easy all the way to hard, and getting to Esad Forest 110 Hidden Ruins. If you go in here, you can check the experience. It costs you 16 stamina to run this dungeon and gives you almost 1,800 rank experience. This dungeon has the highest rank experience per stamina ratio, and is the best place to go for experience. Generally, what I would do is first you're going to want to keep track of your stamina, and the reason being is if you rank up and your stamina is below the stamina cap, it'll completely refresh your stamina in addition to what you currently have. So for instance, if my stamina cap was at 305 and I ranked up right now, and I had, just for easy calculation's sake, I had 100 stamina when I ranked up, I would actually end up with 100 or 405 stamina, right? So you'll get your entire stamina cap back in addition to whatever your current stamina is. You will not get that stamina refresh if you're above the stamina cap. So if I was at like 306 stamina and I ranked up, I would not get that extra 300 stamina. And generally what I would do, fortunately now they've reduced the cost of Rune Dungeon. It used to be 77 stamina for the hardest difficulty. Now it's 36. So you can run this. It doesn't give you too much experience per stamina ratio. So I'd highly recommend running Rune Dungeon to kind of waste stamina before you rank up. You could also do Advent Dungeons for stamina to kind of use up your stamina to drop you below the cap. Or clearing, if you forgot to watch your stamina, you can always clear the Time Space Void dungeons. They do not give you any rank experience. So like when I was first starting out, I used Time Space Void to make sure that I was below the stamina cap to get that free refill. And then essentially up to about rank 190, I did a combination of just doing 110 hard mode and Advent Dungeons or Rune Dungeons. TGSH 11, if you're above the stamina cap when you rank up, you don't get the free stamina refresh. That is why you would want to go below the stamina cap before you rank up. Because you only get that free stamina when you rank up if it's below the cap. Yeah, so essentially what I did early on is I would just do 110 hard mode. I would watch my stamina. If it looked like I was going to be staying over the cap before I ranked up, I would run Rune Dungeon or an Advent Dungeon or even Time Space Void just to get below that cap for the free stamina. And you can essentially just follow that pattern up to about rank 180, 190. And you'll not run out of stamina until you get kind of past the 190 point. After that, you'll start having to use stamina potions and the like. Other ways you can get stamina, 3 times a day, you can buy 200 stamina for 200 PAL points. And just recently in the latest patch, you can now run arenas. Your first 10 arenas will give you 20 stamina for a total of 200 stamina. So all in all, for free every day, you can get 800 stamina for free. And then generally, progression-wise, you're definitely going to be wanting to run Rune Dungeon, get your 6-star runes, and kind of going into runes. Generally, what you're going to want, the main sets are your defense sets. That gives you 2 defense for running 2 of those runes on a character. You can stack them. So for instance, my Ramu has 4 HP runes equipped. So she has 2 HP bonuses for a total of 20% HP increase from the runes. And then she has 2 defense sets for 10% defense bonus. Generally on tanks and healers, you want to run double HP and defense. Tanks, you can run double defense and HP. That's probably more effective health for them. And then for attacker types, you're going to want to run HP with Rune of Rage for the attack bonus. Rune of Rage requires 4. So whenever you're looking at a rune, you can see how many runes are required to be equipped for that set bonus. So this one requires 4. The HP set only requires 2. Generally for tanks, for the first 3 slots, you're going to want triple HP, or as much HP as you can net. Accuracy is not a great stat for your characters. They get a lot of it for free. In most Advent dungeons, you're not going to need that much accuracy. There are a few Advent dungeons that have, like the boss has a mechanic where they have evade. But a lot of those you can either remove that or you can just wait it out. So for the first 3 slots, I'm going to be running triple HP on all my tanks, all my healers. Though with healers, you could go for multi-strike or counter-strike on this slot instead of HP. But that's kind of the safe bet. For the 4th slot, for your attackers, you're going to be wanting to run as much attack as possible. You could also get HP recovery in here. It's not terrible, but I would really recommend going for attack if you can. And then here for your attackers, as much attack as possible. This, and then maybe counter-strike, or HP recovery. Again, accuracy is going to be one of those common roles here. It's not all that useful. And then for your last slot, depending on the character, you're going to want either attack, multi-strike, crit chance. For your tanks and healers, you're going to want to get the triple multi-strike. Yeah, we can go into guild dungeons as well, Vulcan. But yeah, for all my healers, I go HP defense. I get as much multi-strike as possible so they get more healing off. And same thing with counter-strike. For tanks, it really depends. Like my Electra, I go HP, defense, but I'm not building any counter-strike on her. Just primarily because I'm planning to run Electra in Sid Dungeon, which is a 4-star admin dungeon, and that has certain mechanics where counter-strike is bad for you. But yeah, for like tanks, you're going to be wanting to run like counter-strike. If you're using that tank in a dungeon where Counter-Strike's useful. And the main reason being, if a tank gets a taunt off, that character is going to, or that enemy is going to be attacking your tank. If you have a lot of Counter-Strike, the tank can then attack that enemy back, and it has a chance to apply another taunt. So you can just kind of get chain taunts off on enemies with high counter build, tank build. And again, really, it's going to depend on your offense units, what substats you're going to be wanting to run. Generally, it's safe to say you want to attack on any attackers, and then if your character has some sort of strong proc effect, like Tayo, for instance, his passive, anytime he's attacked or he attacks, he gets a stacking Hot-Blooded Instinct buff, which increases his crit chance by 25% of his base. So if he has like 20%, it's only going to increase that 20% by 25% of that amount. So that would jump his 20% to 25, and then kind of continue increasing from there until he crits. And then his first skill gets a stacking attack bonus for however many stacks he has of that passive. And then also he gets increased, inflicts 50% additional damage upon a counter-strike or multi-strike. So he's a character that you would really want to stack as much multi-strike or counter-strike on, just because he's going to get more stacks up, so he's going to do more damage on his first skill, and he's also going to get more extra damage from getting those counter-strikes and multi-strikes. Versus, like, say a character like Morrigan, I'm going to be running her with crit chance, and the main reason being, I don't want to really get multi-strike or counter-strike on her, because when she dies, she gets a Berserker passive for 3 turns. That gives her 100% multi-strike and counter-strike for those 3 turns. So any stats that kind of go into that character on that counter-strike and multi-strike are going to be wasted. So at that point, crit chance is going to be my best stat for her, in addition to just attack. I'm mainly going to be focusing on as much attack as I can get, and then crit chance wherever I can fit it in. Let's see, Leafa is one of those characters. You can build her kind of flexibly. I've seen her built with crit chance, defense, and HP, or attack and crit chance. And then just as much crit chance as possible. And the main reason being, for her passive at 60, whenever she crits, she gets 100% multi-strike. So you don't build multi-strike on her at all. Counter-strike is fine, but multi-strike you don't build, because as long as you crit, you're going to be getting multi-strike. So I'm running her with about 53, almost 54% crit chance, which in turn is also her multi-strike. For Ruby, it really depends what you're going to be using her for. If you're only using Ruby for PvP, you could build her with crit chance. I prefer to use her for both PvP and PvE. And I prefer my Ruby to be a little bit tankier, so I go with her multi-strike on her. So for instance, I'm running 40% multi-strike, 10% counter-strike, without any crit chance on runes. And the main reason being, her 60 talent, whenever she reduces her cooldowns, she gets a 20% heal. And her second skill, when used, has a chance to reduce her third skill's cooldown, while her first skill cooldown has a chance to reduce her second skill's cooldown. So whenever she counter strikes or multi-strikes, as long as that second skill, or even if that second skill is not on cooldown, it's as long as that procs, it's going to heal her for 20% of her health, and reduce that skill's cooldown. So you're going to get to use that skill more often, which in turn can potentially allow you to use her third skill more often. And then you're just going to be getting all of that extra healing. And then 50% chance when she's attacked to cool down all, or to reduce all of her cooldowns by 1 turn. So Ruby's one of those characters that I very much prefer to run multi-strike just to get that extra healing, that extra cooldown reduction, just for more sustained damage over the single target kind of burst damage that a crit chance build would provide her. And that's kind of it for character builds for now. We can talk about guild dungeons. Well, first, guilds in general. I would highly recommend joining a guild as soon as you can. Every day, based on how many guild members check in, you'll get a gold bonus at the beginning of your day when it resets. And then you have guild dungeons. You can run these 3 times a day. You have 3 guild stamina potions. And every time you clear a guild dungeon, you'll get a point towards it. A lot of the ones on the outer rings are much easier, especially the ones on the left side. Those are the easiest ones on the outer ring. And then the ones kind of on the bottom right hand side are going to be more difficult. Most of these are just fairly straightforward. You don't even need the recommended units. It really depends on what that bonus is. But a lot of these easier ones, like, you absolutely don't need them. You could just overpower it with other characters. Now, the middle ones are ones like if you're about midway into the game, you're starting to do 3-star advents. It's really nice to run in the guild dungeon. And the main reason being is these 2 on the inner circle left side. These are 3-star advents. They switch out every week. And all of the mechanics are going to be the same in the guild dungeon that they are going to be in the admin dungeon. And guild dungeons, they don't cost you any stamina to attempt it. If you attempt it and you fail, it's not going to cost you anything. It's only going to cost you a single guild stamina potion when you actually clear it. So for those 3-star advents, for these 4-star advents, the 2 on the right inner are your 4-star advents that are going to switch out. So for instance, like Sinclair, I was actually able to clear him in the guild dungeon by practicing on him here before he actually came out as a 4-star advent. So I was able to practice and kind of build out team strategies for him beforehand just by running it in the guild dungeon. It didn't cost me any stamina or anything, which was a very nice thing. But generally, guild dungeon, the rewards are going to be generally like 50,000 gold. You'll get some elemental essences that you need for characters to be enhanced. And also guild tokens that you can use in the guild shop. Speaking of enhancing, generally for your character progression, you're going to want to get your characters up to max level as soon as possible. And also for characters, I would highly recommend max leveling each form of the character. And the reason being is you get a one-time leveling bonus for a character whenever you max level them. I think I've already maxed all of my characters. You can tell if you've already gained the one-time max level bonus by the character will have a flag on their icon on the top right-hand side. If they don't have one, you can tell you'll get the one-time bonus. So for instance, if I evolve my Christian, that form does not have a max level bonus. And what that max level bonus is the first time you level up that form of the character, you'll get a one-time crystal bonus. For 4-star, that's going to be 6 crystals. For 5-star, that'll be 8 crystals. And then for 6-star, that's going to be 10 crystals. You can also get the you'll get the one-time crystal bonus for leveling up the fodder that you can get from advent dungeons. Or not advent dungeons, but just adventure mode. So like these characters, they'll give you 1, 2, and 3 crystals for max leveling those characters. When you're first starting out, definitely rune dungeon. Get your 6-star runes. You want to just get as much 6-star runes as possible. They're going to be kind of your biggest power boost. And rune dungeon's just a great way to kind of use up your stamina in the beginning. Because a lot of the time you might end up just leveling up constantly for like the first 50 levels or so just from farming rune dungeon without even doing adventure mode. It's only like later on that you really need to start doing adventure mode and rune dungeon, or adventure mode and advent dungeon or essence dungeon, just to get that rank experience that you need. I would highly recommend that you lock any SR heroes. A couple of them are very good to level up and max skill. But before we get into that, let's go into first thing to do once you get a character to 6-star. You want to get them to 50. Get them max level first off. So like this Christian, we're going to get that one-time bonus for him. Let me make sure I have use the light element experience for this. Regarding experience or EXP mons, the same element will give you more experience versus one of a different element. Though the rainbow guys, they'll just give you the most experience, period. So here, I'm going to get him to max for the first time. Again, he doesn't have a flag icon indicating I don't have that one-time bonus yet. So once we get him to max level, he's going to give me that one-time bonus of 8 crystals because he's at 5-star. Once you get a character to 50, you can then choose what's called a limit break. And what that is for the first 2 times you can limit break, I believe it only costs 1 6-star unit. Generally, I would recommend using the rare or R units as fodder for this. But every time you limit break a hero, that's going to increase their level cap by 2. And then once you get them to that increased level cap, you can limit break them again. I don't have a character. Well, Damien is a character that I should limit break. So we'll do this just as an example since I need to level him up anyways. So we'll feed him this rare unit. That's not really worth building. That's going to limit break him to 52. So now his level cap is increased to 52. So I can level him up. So we're going to do that. Get him to 52. Maybe use a different grade. So we're not wasting as much experience there. Yes, Smitty, is it better to focus on limit breaking one hero at a time? I would highly recommend doing so. And the reason being, it's much better to have a single powerful unit. That single powerful unit is going to contribute a lot more to a fight than a bunch of guys at level 52. It's not until the character gets to 60 where for every 2 levels on your character that you get up, they can choose from a talent tree. The talent tree kind of changes depending on the type of character. So healers, like for their first tier, It's recommended that you go Counter Strike or Multi Strike. Then the second tier, they can choose Defense, reduced elemental damage taken, or a chance to apply Brand. In this case, for healers, like I'm going to be going for Defense. This does cost you Essence and Rainbow Essence. These all can be farmed in the Essence dungeon. Rainbow Essence is a lot rarer. But in this case, you can roll this. It can go anywhere between 1 to 3 star. For the early ones, I would recommend maybe getting to 3. It does cost a decent amount of gold. Who should I raise to 61st? Kayn or Ruby? I would recommend getting Ruby to 61st. The reason being is Ruby is very strong in both PvP and PvE, whereas Kayn is primarily only useful for PvP. So yeah, that's kind of my reasoning for that. Also, you can get Essence from guild quests every day, or guild missions, where you can get bonuses here. So every time the guild reaches these caps, you can open these chests for extra loot. But just doing the quests, you can get some essences. Smitty, Ruby or Rue first? I would again get Ruby first. Mainly just because she's going to become a powerhouse at 60 versus Rue. She kind of gets some extra utility. Deimos or Esna? Areas that really depends on who else you have. But if those are your only two choices, I would probably recommend getting Deimos up. Because he's one of the better healers in the game. Esna is useful for some admin dungeons. But the best use of her is on her third skill for the mental seal, and if she can kill someone. But you can get that mental seal on her third skill without getting her to 60. So it's not going to be as big of a bonus as Deimos, where Deimos, his 60 passive, he gets his revive, which is the only way he's going to be able to revive a character. But yeah. So once you get a character to 60, you unlock their 60 talent. So like Morrigan, she unlocks her 60 talent. Some characters like Ruby, their 60 talents going to be quickly just totally unlock that character. Quick waffles or pancakes? Waffles. Yes, waffles. Belgian waffles specifically. But yeah, so essentially you're going to be limit breaking your characters. As you limit break them, it's going to take more units. So for the first 2 limit breaks to get them to 54, it's only going to take 1 fodder unit each. But from 54 to 55 takes 2, and then I think from 54 to 56, and then from 56 to 58, it's also going to take 2. But then from 58 to 60, it'll take 3 units. So all in all, it'll take you 9 6-star units to fully max out a character from level 50 to 60 in terms of limit break. At that point, once you have your full main team fully limit broken, gotten to level 60, you can do what's called enhancing. And the way enhancing works is, again, you're going to be using 6-star fodders, but in this case, it's going to be specific fodders. And the way this works is, when you enhance a character, they'll get small bonuses. So typically for your first bonus, it's going to be 10% attack, and then some secondary bonus, usually attack speed. And then the next one, when you get them to 2-star enhanced, they're going to get 10% increased defense, and then generally 10% damage on their first skill, and then 10% HP increase. This is where it changes up depending on the role. So like a healer is going to get a 5% chance to ignore some abnormal status effect. And then when you get them to 4-star, that's when you're starting to get that larger bonus. So at 4-star, you get 20% defense. On a healer, you'll get 10% HP recovery. 5-star, you get 20% HP increase. And then at 6-star, you're going to get 20% attack increase. So all in all, once you get a character to 6-star, they're going to have 30% more attack, HP, and defense. Is Nemesis good? She's okay, Blaze Soul. She's not very good. She's one of the weakest SSR units. But they are planning, per the dev notes, they are planning to buff her. So she's not a terrible unit. It all really depends on what buffs they're going to be applying to her. But the really nice bonuses are from for your attackers. So like 1st star, attack speed and attack. 2nd is defense and accuracy. Then HP, increased damage to defense types. Defense increase, increased damage for skill 1. Max HP increase, 10% damage increase to support types. And then the final one is 20% attack and 20% additional crit damage on attacker types. Now, what specific fodders do you need to be using for enhancements? It depends on what character you're enhancing and at what tier you're enhancing them at. So for SSRs, you're going to need a total of 3 rare Advent Dungeon units, 5 super rare Advent Dungeon units, the SRs, and then lastly, you're going to need 7 SSR Advent Dungeon units. The rare Advent Dungeon units, you can get them from 1 and 2-star Advent Dungeons. They're relatively easy to clear. And they don't have any challenge limit, so you can just keep clearing them. Yeah, so like right now it's Flaming Hot Girl Flare Advent with Prophet Carmen Advent for the 2-star and 1-stars. So that's where you're going to get those rare Advent Dungeon units. You can always check the available rewards. The Advent Dungeons can also drop 4-star units, just general ones. But you're mainly going to be looking for that Advent Dungeon character, which is not that one. She's in here somewhere. And then once you get to the 3-star Advents, you can get the SR heroes, the SR Advent heroes. So this one's going to be much easier to find. There he is. Xenon in this case. They're slightly more difficult, and it really depends on the mechanics of that Advent Dungeon. There's some that are super easy. Xenon's probably one of the more difficult ones, unless you have strong water units, versus the one I already cleared today, Julie. She's super easy to clear. It doesn't take a lot. And then lastly, once they're kind of more end game points, you have 4-star Advent Dungeons, which are the most difficult PvE content in the game. And that's going to be where you get your SSR units. And generally for like 4-star Advents, depending on how difficult it is, you're going to want either like your entire team at least 4-star enhanced, or 6-star enhanced with runes maxed out, or at least to plus 12. Now, there are certain SR units that are much more common that I would recommend building out. So if we go in here, let's look at the SRs. One of those being Cordelia. She's one of the strongest tanks in the game. And you don't really need to invest in her too much. But she's one of the best healers. You want to get her to, or not healers, but tanks. You want to get her to 60 as soon as possible. Her 60 talent gives her 3% healing per stack of Searing Rage, which stacks up to 3 times. So at the start of her turn, or at the end of her turn, she just heals up 9% of her health with that passive. Another SR unit I would highly recommend building, Saya. I have her 3rd skill maxed. But she's one of the also like super strong SR units. Those are the main 2. If you don't have a Rue, I would also highly recommend building up a Esmeralda. Esther is the only dark healer in the game. But yeah, generally, as just a general recommendation, I would lock any SR units you have. When you go into the character, there's this lock panel. I would just lock them so you don't accidentally feed them away and find out later that you need that character. And I would also always just have at least 1 copy of every SR unit, because a lot of the advent dungeons will have specific units, and usually an SR unit will be featured for some decent or very strong bonus. So it's always nice to just have them in case you need them. Esmeralda is okay. The main reason you're going to be using her is if you can max skill her and get her to 6-star enhance, she'll be pretty strong, and you mainly need her for Sinclair Advent to counter. She's a featured hero in Sinclair and provides a 50% chance to resist the Looming Death debuff, and that would be the main reason that you would use her. If you have Rue, you don't really need to build Esmeralda, especially if you have a Saya and can get her 3rd skill maxed. Because Rue's 60 passive can remove Looming Death from your entire party. Are there any R units I should not feed? Not really, Ares. Most R units is perfectly fine to feed away, though I would keep your R Advent units. So the ones that can spawn from the Advent dungeons are the Advent featured units. You want to keep those, get them to 6 stars so you can use them as enhanced fodder. Ronin's okay, but again, generally you're going to be getting a lot stronger units with your SR or SSR units. You're mainly going to want to be focusing on your SSR units, because they have the highest base stats and generally have the most powerful effects on their passives and their skills. Yeah, generally your SSR and SR units are going to be a lot stronger. They have higher base stats. Let's see. So we went over limit breaking, hero talents again. Hero talents are, again, like when you limit break your characters, you get an extra tier on the hero talent, so you can spec into those extra. You need those essences for that. Is it worth using stamina pots early? No, it is not worth using stamina pots early on, Smitty. Again, with that experience kind of rotation that I recommended, running 110 hard mode, adventure mode, to get those rank ups for that free refills, it's not worth it to use stamina potions, especially since stamina potions restore stamina based on your stamina cap. So the higher your stamina cap is, the more you're going to be getting out of each individual stamina potion. So right now a stamina potion, if I use it, will give me 305 stamina, versus if you use it at like rank 100, you're only going to be getting like 100 something. So I'm getting at least, if not more than double the amount of stamina per potion that I'm using than you would. And you can get more than enough free stamina just farming Adventure Dungeon just to rank up, as long as your stamina is below the cap. Skill Enhance, I would really leave this for much later. But generally, Skill Enhance for certain characters like Saya. Saya is one of the characters that I would recommend actually enhancing her third skill. Just because it becomes that much more powerful at 6-star. But the way Skill Enhance works is, so we can go for Tayo. You want to evolve the duplicates that you're using to 6-star before you use them for Skill Enhance. And the main reason being, at 4-star, it's only 25% to enhance that skill. 25% chance. It's totally not worth it, especially for like SSR units. If you have a 5-star duplicate, it goes to 50% chance. So like here, with my Ruby, at 5-star, it's 50% chance. It's still not worth it, especially for the SSR units. Unless you just have like an abundance of duplicates and you're about to get that character max, so those other duplicates aren't going to be worth it. Maybe use 5 stars then. But otherwise, you want to get that duplicate to 6-star for that 100% bonus. I don't have any characters at 6-star that I can feed right now to kind of show that off, but at 6-star it is 100%. Yeah, the Tayo was from Tayo Advent, which was a 4-star Advent. So in total, you need 16 of a character to get them to max skill. Each skill has a max level of 6, and it starts at 1. So you can skill a skill up 5 times to get it to max. Some skills have really nice effects that you can look at. And especially when they max out. So like Tayo, for instance, his attack buff doesn't really change. It's mainly the damage. But once you get that to 6-star, his attack buff increases the attack to all allies by 30% for 2 turns instead of 1. And that's a major difference going from 5 skill, level 5 to level 6. Same thing for his third skill. At 5-star, or at level 5, it does good damage and a high chance to stun, but it only decreases damage taken by 70% for 1 turn. But when you get to level 6, that's going to decrease it to 2 turns, right? So that doubles the duration of that buff. And there's a lot of characters that get like special additional bonuses when you max out their skills. They're either like buff durations increase, things like that. Or they just get like an extra boost in damage. Yes, my YouTube channel is in the link below the stream, where I'll be posting this video to. What else to go over? Selling heroes, it is only worthwhile to sell gold mons, and maybe 1, 2, and 3-star monsters, if you already have the one-time max level bonus for them. Who is the best waifu? That would have to be Morgan. Morgan's the best waifu. But in terms of like useful waifu, Rue is definitely the best. She just lets you ignore so many different Advent dungeon mechanics. It's ridiculous. Electra is also pretty amazing. I think that's it that I can think of for kind of a beginner guide. Do your PvP, do all your daily quests. The daily quests and weekly and monthly quests. Also, you want to check if there's events going on. You want to get those bonuses as well. But like for instance, as long as you complete all your daily quests, you get 10 crystals and gold every day. Completing your weekly quests gives you crystals. Clearing your monthly quests give you crystals. Another way to get crystals is from arenas. Just the first time rewards for getting to a new arena tier. You get one-time crystal bonus and gold for each tier that you increase. And also at the end of your week, just based on whatever your tier is at, you get crystals. I usually get to the champion rank, so I get 280 crystals a week by doing that. And then as long as you get 10 victories again a day, you get 200 stamina, a bunch of gold, and honor points that you can use to buy either units or specialty runes. The enhanced stone is not really worth it. But yeah.